show this week is a great history story. I was never a fan of history at school, but this is a great story. Welcome to this week's Dwarf and Chips. As I said, bit of a history lesson. Started 1840. Simon, you're fifth generation Lilley, but it all started with Simeon, just over your shoulder.
Yep. Simeon Lilley, who started the business. As you quite rightly said, I'm fifth generation. He started the business, which started as trade to the railway industry at the time. We used to make cap explosives for the railway lines. We used to do a lot of decorative work for shutter knobs.
When you say cap explosives, though, what on earth were they?
Cap explosives were basically the explosives that they put down on the track. When the train crossed it, it would make a very loud noise, which would alert the train driver who would put the train to a stop. Used in emergencies, I think, more than anything.
Right, so warning system.
A warning system, correct.
So it obviously has progressed and changed a lot over the time. So that's part of your success, I should imagine, in terms of different products.
Yeah. I mean, I think any company over the years isn't doing what they did when they started, whether it was back in the 1820s, the 1720s, or further back from there. We've had a steady progression really through the years where we've gone from parts for the railway industry, parts for the bikes industry, parts for doorknobs and accessories from that side.
So one thing you've got is that catalogue. Oh, it's an old salesman's catalogue really. It's sort of pressed and stamped and turned parts, sort of doorknobs, picture frame holders and things like that. Tell me more about that.
That's right, yeah, very old catalogue that I think's well past its expiry date and ready to explode on us, but still holds a bit of history for us. And that takes us right the way through to the early part of the 20th century when we started to get involved with lighting. Also at the part of that century we were working with making terminal blocks for the Imperial Radio set, which I have an example to show you later.
Well, seeing it here, it's absolutely fantastic. And it's not, well, what's it powered by?
It's powered by crystal. So basically, the fundamental parts of it, you balance the crystal with a very small nib on the end, and then putting in an earth terminal as well as a long aerial. The bigger the aerial, the better the signal that you would get, and then you would just finely tune and listen to the radio on your headset.
Just stunned about the fact, and we've got Gina in our office who does love her crystal, and I won't sort of have any banter with her about crystals anymore because the radio, just to confirm, it's running from that crystal essentially.
That's right, yeah, it just runs from the crystal.
Brilliant, it really is. And when does this radio set date back to?
That would be pre-war, that will be.
Okay, and you as a company were making turn parts?
Yeah, I mean, we were doing a lot of the turn parts, so as you can see in the top of the crystal set, you can see all the turned knobs that would have been made here, along with some of the ball joints and the rocker arms for the spring crystal. And I would suspect that the wooden aspect of it was all bought in from somebody that was probably just around the corner, and then it was all assembled here. And it clearly shows on the bottom that it was a product of SL&S, S. Lilley and Son.
There you go. And as you say, all manufactured around here because at one point Birmingham was the workshop of the world, as we said earlier. Brilliant. So you've got the radio set, which is brilliant. You've got all your picture frame holders and doorknobs and things like that. What sort of machines were these made on?
Well, there's a whole mixture of machines. I mean, we've always been sort of a two-part factory, really, in some ways. We've been into our press parts. We've also been into our turn parts. So, looking back to the earlier starts of turn parts, these were done on overhead gang-rung, belt-driven machines that will all be turning off a main spindle or a main motor within the factory. And then we sort of slowly progressed from there. I think some of the older Brown and Sharp autos that we moved into, which
I've
were
got to
from the
stop to
50s.
take you back though, because you've still got some of those old belt-driven systems for your
We have.
barrelling. Is that correct?
For the barrelling, yeah, we still run those. They do run on electric motors now, but yeah, the concept is still there. So we've got overhead gantries which revolve round and turn the belts, which we slide in and out to engage the gearing.
Which would essentially, I mean, in the day, that would be running the whole machine shop, that type of system.
Correct, yeah.
So some of the machines you've got downstairs are Sweeney Block Sarge, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. What are they actually doing?
Yeah, Sweeney and Blocksy, that was on the press side of the business. So those were very much sort of the first power presses, as they were told. Again, they would run from the overhead gantry system to be able to rotate and to be able to drop down to be able to turn the press over. That obviously now is a little bit different, and all machines are now electrified and work on three-phase motors.
But still going strong in the machine shop.
Still going strong.
Okay. And then next thing, which I'm going to go and actually do a quick review of now, is it Platarg, is that right? Platargs, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, those are really the CNCs of the press world. So that enables you to do multi-stage press work.
Simon, I'm going to stop you there, because what I'm going to do is have a quick look at the machine. I rudely interrupted Simon, because we're going to talk about this machine. Brass strip here, into machine, nice and simple. Basically 11 different processes. Stamping each component, and then it moves along. It's actually got little centres in there, so if one does pop out, you're not going to get a catastrophic failure. You probably wouldn't do with the strength and solidity of this machine, because just look at it. They don't make machines like this anymore. And then, as I said, 11 processes. So what you get? Well, this little example here. So these are all the different stages. So 1, 2, 3, 4, trying to shuffle them out for you, moving along. And then that's your final component just there, which looks like this. Now, you're not doing it all in one operation, because as the brass is pressed, it'll distort, it'll heat up, and it potentially crack. So you have to do it stage by stage, and that's what you end up with. And then it goes into the final assembly, which looks like that. And then, oh, just to show the history page, that's an old World II siren, perfect timing. It's actually turned down because it is so loud. You can hear how loud it is, and that's turned down and covered up. But there you go, that's a final assembly, and that's been patinated. Go back to Simon. So that was one stage in their automation. Next stage, Simon, Brown and Sharp?
Yeah, no, the Brown and Sharps have always been, in my lifetime, have been in the business. When I first came, you know, we were running about 20 machines, all on different parts. Some of them were just subcontract work. We had, I think, up to 9 machines just running on producing a shower nut for a company that produces the flexi hose for your common shower. You know, those machines, the early ones that were here, we dated back to sort of the 1950s, and we still have one machine left, which I would say would be about 1970s, early 80s machine, which we still run on one particular part, which it's all geared up for.
Brilliant. And it's still got the bar feed, so you can leave it running for a certain period of time.
Yeah, well, that is the downside, and which has really sort of moved us to the CNC side. The problem is with the Brown and Sharps, they don't have an auto bar feed, so you have to manually feed them. Manually feeding, we only do one shift here of 39 hours a week, so you are restricted to that 39 hours. However, with a CNC, we move up to the better.
And before we go into the CNC though, you've still got some old Capstan lathes as well, which you're using.
We have, yeah.
What are you doing with those?
Well, those are really used for single op work. They're very good with threading attachments on, and those enable us to do a very speedy, accurate threading of our lamp holders.
Okay, then next stage, sort of in the evolution really, CNC. So what came first, the CMZ or the Star?
Oh, CMZ or the Star? Neither. It was actually a Miyano that came first. Miyano was the first one. Miyano and Citizen were actually separate then, but it was a Miyano that arrived on our doorstep first. We bought a second-hand one just to see if we were capable of using it, and got on very well with it. And it became very useful and really indicated where the market was going, where we were losing the larger volume, 10,000 pieces on a run, down to something as little as just 100 pieces. However, the 100 pieces could actually give you a better return because you could command more money for it.
Okay, and I'm thinking with your Miyano, big batch runs, but you say 100 off, not a problem.
No, not a problem.
Okay, we'll come on to the Citizen, the Miyanos, the Cincoms in a minute. CMZ though, why did you buy that?
One of the reasons for that, we were looking for something with a bigger turning capacity. It was recommended to us by another factory, and we went down that road and really haven't really sort of looked back from that side. It's given us that capability of doing the larger parts that we were scratching heads a little bit, and whether we'd still be able to do them with using some of the old Brown and Sharp technology.
Right, and it's all about keeping competitive, keeping the spindles turning. Are you doing sort of one-offs and working the chuck with that as well or not?
Yeah, well, not so much one-offs, but on the CMZ we do go down to just a small run of 50. However, obviously that's it does have additional costs because of setup and everything. But it just depends how complex the job is. But you know, we still get quite a bit of work through it.
And I'm going to throw in a little bit of a segue here because you do one-offs, because I've seen the pictures of your Georgian house where you've been doing some light fittings. But that's another story. Next state, well, I suppose next move, a couple of stars, because you want to do some smaller parts.
Yeah. We've got a couple of stars. Those basically run on the smaller parts that we do. Really, most of the time those run on the catalogue parts. So we steam through quite a few volume side of things. It's very good with all threads.
Okay, and when you say catalogue parts, now it's mainly lamp holders, is that correct?
Correct. Lamp holders and accessories for the lighting trade. We're really the component side of the lighting trade. So if you're looking to put together a luminaire, a lamp of some type.
A luminaire?
A luminaire is what they're called. That is something that, you know, we will be making the parts for them.
Okay, and a great example is some of the parts we've got in front of us. If you just show us one of those as an example.
Yeah, this is one of our upmarket. We've never been the downtrodden volume market that's cheap and tacky on the bottom. We've always tried to pride ourselves in being something, one, a little bit different and a little bit better quality than what you can actually get out there. That really sort of put us into the E14 section, where we wanted to do something which gave people a better finish with different finishes that we can actually produce on-site as well as off-site.
And that ties in nicely with the CNC machines, because you're getting that better finish and machine very, very quickly and accurately.
Correct, yeah. I mean, obviously, you know, the accuracy of a turn part, of a press part is, you know, a lot higher. But, you know, for the world that we live in, it is good enough for the trade at the moment.
Okay. Now, that's a relatively new part, I understand. Production run of about 30,000 a year, is that correct?
Yeah. That's roughly where we anticipated we would be. I don't think we're that far off, to be honest. You know, we're pretty much on tack with that. It's gone down very well in the trade, and, you know, people are slowly moving over to it from other variants which are on offer throughout the trade.
Now, that, you know, we said 30,000 of those, and that's made of 4 or 5 parts, is that correct?
Correct, yeah.
But product ranges of other luminaires,
Yep.
much larger runs?
Yeah. I mean, the Edison screw lamp holder, which is the big brother to the E14, which is the E27, commonly known as the screw action light bulb. We sell roughly about 250,000 of those a year at the moment.
250,000, wow. And that comprises 4 or 5 parts, so...
Yep.
I dread to put millions of parts per year you're manufacturing here.
Yep.
Okay, and then next step on, then next part of the evolution, it sits in Cincom and your Miyano machines.
Correct.
How have they helped you?
They've helped in all sorts of different areas. You know, we've moved from brand shops, which I've already explained have been a little bit restrictive. You can't run them into the night. You need people to be able to feed them all the time.
And the skill set, I should imagine.
And a certain skill set. And that was really where we found ourselves at the beginning of the year with the old foreman that used to run the Brown and Sharps. We knew retirement was looming for him, and we'd never really sort of found anybody that could just straight sit into his, or fit into his shoes, should I say. And that was one of the reasons we started prior to that to slowly move in CNCs and update all the machines that we've got in the factory.
Okay, so these machines are enabling you to run 24/7 essentially. Materials-wise, I mean, again, you've got another example here of now. I said incorrectly earlier, that's aluminium, but it's not. It's still brass, is that correct?
It's still brass underneath. That's actually a nickel-plated one, which we would barrel nickel plate in our own barrel vat downstairs. But all those parts there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different parts that we make in-house here. There's 2 that are pressed, and then there's 3 that are turned. Those are all done on CNCs, those 3 parts that are turned.
Brilliant. And that's, like I say, different finish. And what other finishes do you do? Because
we do a couple of patinated finishes. Those are both done in-house. That is Old English, which is a very sort of slightly tarnished brass. And then we do a bronze, which is a very dark lustre finish, as if bronze has been outside for far too long. And then not forgetting brass itself, we do a barrel finish, as you mentioned earlier, that's done in a barrel run downstairs, which just tumbled with shot.
So by my very poor maths, I hasten to add, you're making, I would say, over 4 million parts a year. But where are they being shipped to?
Oh, across the world. Australia, Japan, New Zealand, far afield for that.
It's, again, a great, great success story, and it is keeping Birmingham the workshop of the world, I'd say. And we are in, I don't want to dwell on too much troubled times, but business-wise for you guys, how are things progressing?
It's very good. I mean, obviously, we're all having our problems and teething problems with COVID-19, but, I'll write off definitely April and May, but since then we've had a steady return back, and we are now sort of doing better than we were doing last year.
This really is a great story, history from 1840 through to how they've evolved and bought new machines and new systems. But Simon, one final question, where to next?
Well, world is our oyster, as we say. You never know. I mean, hopefully there'll be other generations coming down. There's a few sons with the line-up, I think, but you just never know.
Brilliant. Great, great story, great history lesson. Thank you very much.